Hello viewers, this is Random Stuff with Alex Hughes, and today I will be discussing the history of the mouse, which is not what you expect right here. You think, oh, you're thinking like the animal, you know, the mouse, like cheese and stuff. But, oh man, he fell over. But I will be discussing the history of the computer mouse. I'm actually quite interested in computers, and I really like them. And I think the history of the mouse is quite interesting from where we've gotten from the past to today. And so, I better take these guys off, you know, put them to the side here. And I also have like a towel that's kind of like a cheese color. Huh, a little pun on the thing, yes. So the first thing is that computers were not always had mouses attached to them, you know. They used to be like text-based computers that were very simple, you know. I'm surprised to see people were actually able to use it, you know. It seems so complicated. So they kind of started off with just having this just keyboards, you know. Just this keyboard in order to actually move around the screen. You don't have the GUI format. And yeah, this keyboard is pretty old, probably like 20 years ago. Basic keyboard though. It's missing some buttons, which was I plugged this into the computer and it was really hard to use because of the button missing. But yeah, I replaced it, and it has the standard the PS port attachment, which is pretty old because they have now like wireless, and there's the USB attachment, I think. Yeah, so that's what they used, but basically before the mouse was really prevalent. And so one of the first probably types of mouses, probably not the first, but I mean it's a very early mouse, is this mouse right here. And I did show this in like a preview I did yesterday. And this mouse I found it a couple years ago, and I thought it was very interesting. This is so different than the types of the mice we see nowadays. I mean, it's completely square. I'm just surprised how they were able to use it. You know, it's missing the middle part. And yeah, I don't know if it would be very comfortable because of the blunt edges. I think the round edges of the mice today are very, very comfortable. It runs on a wheel, just like, you know, the mechanical style. And the sound is very bizarre too. I think it's probably brand new. It looks like it hasn't been used at all. But it's a very interesting looking mouse when you think about it, you know. And there's the connector port, still in bubble wrap this day. And like I said, I was surprised to see this is connected with a printer port style. This is very different. You know, usually there's like the PS port or USB. Of course, at this time, I don't think USB was even around or something like that. But I think this is an adapter from, as someone had said, serial port to parallel port. Yeah, I think this probably could work still if you plug it in, but it would be really awkward to use. I'm not left-handed, but I'm using my right hand with the camera. And that is a really early mouse from actually 1987 or something like that, which is almost 30 years ago. And the next one is basically a mouse from the early 2000s. Basically what you would see most of the time, you know, with a basic mouse. You know, there's no, oh, there's Ann on it, huh? There's no middle scroll button, which makes it kind of inconvenient when you're like on the web pages and whatnot. But yeah, it has a comforting thing where you can stick your finger right there, you know, indentation. This is kind of flimsy though. It's still based on the same ball and wheel of one that was made like 10 years before this, basically. We rarely use this mouse though. Well, there's different types of mice that you see, you know, there's the laser ones, and then there's wireless, and then this one's wire. I mean, it's pretty long. I mean, I can see now that we have a wireless one, why wireless is good, because it's much more convenient. And and yeah, it's still going. I don't even know how long it is. Not a traditional PS mouse support that you have. Yeah, if you bend one of those, you're done basically. Now this one didn't work when we plugged it in though, or when I plugged it, I mean. So it's probably broken. And you just try to use this as a backup. Even mice die, I think, because I had I think a laser one, and that eventually died. And so this is the current one we use, which my mom bought. And this is actually wireless, which is surprising when you think about how the last two were basically corded. This one's much more convenient to use. Only problem I would say is the sensitivity. If you have it too high, it just flies around. But this is much more convenient to use, and it's very ergonomic. Has a scrolling button, which is very convenient, and it has a pretty good range. I mean, without a wire, it's like, how do you use it? But I mean, you have the receiver, which is extremely tiny. It's USB connected. I don't know if it's 3.0 or 2.0, but yeah, it's USB connected. Very tiny. If you lose this, you can't use the mouse. It runs on batteries, which is different than other ones. I guess it's a digital type thing compared with this. So the history of the mouse is very interesting. Now you have you don't even use mice anymore, because you have your tablet or your smartphone and stuff. It's like, forget about the computer, right? Except I really do like the computer, Basically you have, of course, the most advanced one, I think, is the wireless mouse, and then you have the old corded mouse with the ball and wheel, and then you have the even older one, which is from the 80s, connected by serial port. Oh, I fell down, huh? So you got a serial port, and then you have the PS port, and then you have a USB port. Sometimes you can have the corded USB too, but man, so you have a pretty small one, and you have a pretty big one, and then you have a square one. I mean, how do you get a square one with these round ones? It doesn't make any sense. This is more like more raised up, and this one's kind of flatter, but this one's really flat. It's a freaking square. It's really weird. And before that, you have the keyboard, the clackety keyboard. And so that's basically the history of the mouse. Of course, mine is probably not very accurate, but it's a general look into the mouse's history, and this is the first video of a series of history. Next might be the keyboard, actually. The history of the keyboard. How has the keyboard changed in all these years? So I hope you guys liked it, and this is the history of the mouse, episode 1, computer history. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like the video, comments, like my page, a whole bunch of other stuff. Thank you for watching.